Welcome to our webinar, Beyond the Zero Button, Building AI Agents That Customers Love. We are just now hitting 12:30 Pacific. Let's give it one more minute for folks to join and trickle into the audience before we dive into our content. We're going to get started promptly in just about a minute. I'm seeing some waves from the audience. Thank you. Always nice to see the engagement. And please do use the Q&A box to submit any questions that you have throughout. We'll have some dedicated time at the end to answer your questions. For folks just joining us, we're just letting a couple more people trickle into the audience, and then we'll get started. Okay, we're about 1 minute past, so let's jump in. We have a lot to cover today. Hi, everyone. My name is Devin Michael, and I'm the VP of Product Marketing here at Cresta. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we dive into our content and I introduce our guest, who I am very excited to have an in-depth conversation with, I do want to just quickly introduce Cresta. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, we help many of the world's leading companies like United Airlines, Cox Communications, and Intuit transform their customer experiences with human-centric AI, one of the key topics that we're going to get into today. And we do that by deploying autonomous AI agents that are capable of solving complex customer issues, by augmenting human agents in real time and rethinking how work gets done in the contact center, and providing deep conversational intelligence to help businesses understand root cause and act on the voice of their customers to make better decisions across the business. We're proud to be backed by some of the world's most prominent investors, including A16Z, Sequoia, Greylock, and World Innovation Lab. And we were recently named a leader in conversation intelligence by Forrester Research. But enough about us. I promise you that's the last spiel about Cresta you're going to get today, because I'm excited to introduce the real star of our show, my guest, Cassie Kozyrkov. I'm thrilled to be joined by Cassie, CEO of Kozyrkov and Google's former chief decision scientist. Cassie is a pioneer of decision intelligence. It's a discipline that sits at the intersection of AI, data, statistics, psychology, neuroscience, decision-making, so many different complex disciplines coming together to form Cassie's deep experience and expertise. And her work, unsurprisingly, has been featured in publications like Harvard Business Review, Wired, Forbes. She's held keynotes and speaking engagements at Web Summit, World Economic Forum, South by Southwest, and many, many more. We're really joined by a luminary today, and I'm a little bit starstruck, to be honest. So hopefully that doesn't come through too much. Cassie, I'd love for the audience to hear from you. And I actually heard a fun fact about you. You're the only person that's taught AI on all 7 continents. Is that true?
I'm the first. So there is one more. That's my friend Ellie K. Miller a few years after me. But yeah, there are very, very few people, I think, who have gone off to Antarctica to do it too.
What was that like, teaching about AI and ML in the cold?
Well, no, it was warm, and it was with scientists, and I was not teaching to the penguins. Don't
you weren't all
worry.
Bundled up? No, okay.
Well, but let me tell you, outside where it's cold, the cold is less concerning than the smell of the penguins. But I think maybe we should talk about AI before we imagine that too hard and too much.
All right. Well, we'll stop there. But Cassie, welcome. We're excited to have you there, and we're really excited to dive into our topic for today, which is why so many AI agents seem to fail, how to build them more effectively, and how we lean into trust and reliability and build systems around them to achieve that, and what the future of customer experience could look like if we're successful. So it's a deep topic. We've got a lot to get through. Let's dive right in, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
Excellent. So let's start at the beginning. I think we've all experienced that feeling of being on the phone with a bad automated system, and we're screaming representative, we're mashing that 0 button, to play off our webinar title today a little bit. And I think anybody who doesn't have a personal story involving experience like that is either very, very fortunate, I'd want to buy a lottery ticket with them, or more likely, they're just living under a rock and actually not engaging with these businesses very much. And while the AI models that are underpinning this type of technology have improved exponentially over the last few years. There's been some recent research from MIT that really went viral in the last month that 95% of enterprise Gen AI deployments are failing still. And it suggests that maybe the results are still pretty lackluster. Now, I know that study was broader than AI agents in the customer service setting. But I guess I just have to ask this question, Cassie, like, do people really just hate talking to machines, or is there something else going on here?
Oh, come on. We all talk to machines. I mean, I talk to my microwave, to cars, to my computer. Am I the only person? I'm pretty sure we don't hate talking to machines. Like, we talk to machines for the same reason that we talk to pet rocks or, a sock. If you sew some buttons on it, you will find yourself talking to it. We anthropomorphize things. What I'm pretty sure we hate, though, is being dehumanized by shoddy design choices, by technology that is designed by someone who clearly does not have our best interests at heart. It's very hard to love an experience that just screams at you, go away, don't waste my time. And it's lovely to have an experience with technology where you get what you want quickly and fluidly, easily. So I don't think that there's a hatred of machines in general, or of talking to them. I think we're quite apt to do it. But the rehumanization of humans by technology, I think, is a movement I'm so excited to see flourish. We've had a few bad decades, and it's time to bring back joyful experience with technology.
Right. No, I think anybody who's paying attention recognizes that the opportunity is here. It's right in front of us. It is possible now. It may not have been really possible before, and it certainly is now. But I think it sounds like companies might need to undergo somewhat of a mindset shift, right? What do they need to do to change people's minds? Consumers have been burned before. There's been multiple hype cycles behind this type of technology. What do they need to do to help their customers find these systems helpful rather than frustrating?
Oh, well, I mean, not to say the obvious, but design them in such a way as not to be frustrating. Okay, that's an obvious statement. But
I set myself up for that one, I'll admit.
You did. I'm sorry, Devin. But look, when it's really, really expensive to create the system, and when you have to design it once and it as the best possible simple system for most eventualities, what you're really trying to do is, well, if it's some kind of customer support system, you're trying to get the customer to go away with a minimum of bother to you. And the customer feels that, and it's expensive to create something better than that.
Yeah.
And of course, when there's so many different paths, right? If you think about a human expressing their issue, however they wish to express it, you could let them talk, except it's either impossible or expensive to build that kind of system 10, 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, impossible. Or you give them a menu of 4 choices. And of course, that doesn't feel great for them.
It's less risky, but it does not feel great.
It's less risky. Well, again, I think the notion of risk is going to change, because I think that very quickly consumers are going to realize that they should be demanding more. Right now is the time to be creating delightful experiences, and I think it will be unacceptable in the near future to have painful, crackly elevator music and a menu that you can't speed up and of only 4 options, right? We'll have parodies of it rather than treat it as our normal. So I think, AI is changing the cost of being able to create brilliant solutions, but also it's creating flexibility that we've never had before. So now is the time to get excited about it, and for consumers, now is the time to get excited about not wanting to claw your eyes out when you are having a customer support experience.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. And it seems like from a business perspective that it's almost like baked into the KPIs that we use to talk about these systems. Deflection, containment, right? It's all about just preventing them from reaching the higher cost human.
Right.
That's fundamentally the wrong way to think about it.
It's a zombie virus or something rather than your
Exactly.
precious customer that you're trying to serve.
Yeah, this is not a quarantine. So I guess to that point, Cassie, like what do companies need to actually optimize for the experience? What sort of insights do they need that maybe they don't have today to understand richer dimensions of a good experience in these conversations and then optimize these systems for them? You know, is that going to be possible to do just through surveys and things like that? Or is there something else here that they can tap into?
Well, when we talk about richer dimensions, we will have more interesting opportunities to collect and analyze data on the fly. So, for example, your phone customer support system from 15 years ago was not going to be able to analyze notes of frustration in the voice in real time.
Right.
Today and tomorrow's will be able to do that, right? And those types of signals will create richness. The entire history of the conversation, I mean, completely unacceptable things will be where you have to repeat your context over and over as you're shunted through the system. It's something that that generation takes for granted. The future will find it, again, unacceptable. Context will travel throughout, and that context will be analyzable and will be able to be mined for insights into how to reduce the frustration that that person is signaling, right? When a customer comes along, they are generally very happy to inform you of exactly how annoyed they are and exactly what they're annoyed by. And we are just at that technological stage where we're capable of hearing them. Right? And how magical is that we're capable of hearing them, and we're capable, instead of just dropping all that context on the floor and making them restart their frustration again, exponentially mounting frustration, we will use what they're sharing with us to create a better experience. How wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's really critical to how we think about AI agents and how companies should approach them. A lot of the companies that we talk to that come to us, they've run into challenges either building these systems in-house or working with other vendors. And you know, there's a lot of issues that cause the challenges that they come to us with. But fundamentally, one of the threads I see most often is they're trying to approach automation in a vacuum, that automation that's not underpinned by a deeper understanding of the conversations they're already having today, that isn't augmented by that sort of deeper intelligence and understanding of the customer in the automated conversations and giving you those data points to optimize against. So I do think that a key takeaway for the audience is AI agents and automation without insights are sort of destined to fail. It's more of the same that we've seen in the past. And that's a pitfall, right? So that kind of brings me to my next question. You know, beyond that and beyond this mindset shift that you already discussed, what are some of the other common pitfalls that lead to getting it wrong?
Well, a classic, and not just in this setting, but generally, is Goodhart's law, where you have some metric, you have some KPI, and there was some good reason, some good thing it was measuring. And now you game your whole system around improving this metric, and perhaps you completely lose touch with whatever reality you were supposed to be serving. So one example of this is, I imagine that the call center of the future will have human agents spending more time per call. And today, there's a lot of wanting to minimize the call time, right? You want to contain and deflect and, you know, quarantine and all the rest of it, right? And so you want, you know, less time for your human agents. But I expect that call time will go up, and that will be as a result of technology. And if we look at this, we'll say, oh no, tomorrow's experience is failing. It's falling apart. It's on fire. Whereas what is actually likely to happen is that because humans are the only ones who can take responsibility, machines can't take responsibility, situations that are gnarly, difficult, and require a lot of human judgment that aren't just the run-of-the-mill repetitive stuff that's easiest to automate, that will end up flowing to humans who will have to spend more time, and potentially with customers who are more hurt and irate and need, more, let's say, TLC, a little bit of love and care to work on them, probably will require, more human effort. Thank you for the heart. Whoever sent me the heart upon the
Your reactions are excellent. They're really building us up. Keep them coming.
Yeah, exactly. Keep them coming. They're nice. So if you then foolishly chase the wrong KPI, and if you chase something that's designed for a world that's different from the world that you now inhabit, you will end up creating worse solutions rather than better solutions. So at every step, the leadership move is really to think about, how does this connect to the real world? What is the real experience that we are trying to make? What is the real problem that we are solving? Are we even sure that our measures measure the right thing? And to have that ability to pivot, if it turns out that what we were measuring last year or last decade was a good idea and it isn't a good idea anymore, right? Now let's have the courage to pivot and do better going forward.
Yeah, no, it's a great example, and it's something I want to dive into even more a little bit later. This evolving role of human agents, but sort of pivoting back to AI agents and automation for a moment here. A lot of what we discussed in terms of the mindset shift and sort of redesigning these experiences with the end customer in mind versus cost savings as the ultimate goal. That ultimately comes back to earning and retaining the trust of customers, oftentimes customers who have been burned by these systems before. And so that's not always easy to do. I'm not going to minimize the journey to get there for certain people. But it really comes down to whether it was useful, it was convenient, it got the job done faster than they otherwise could have. But I think for enterprises, the stakes are maybe even higher, right? I mean, that's one of the stakes, certainly, but businesses need to trust that they've deployed a system that's consistently accurate, it's operationally precise, it's capable of handling all of the messy edge cases in these conversations, and it's actually secured against bad actors, right? And it seems like we can't make it more than a few months without some new story about a hack or a jailbreak or just chatbots and AI agents gone wrong. So I'm curious if any key stories come to mind for you, and if you could sort of walk us through the implications of what happened for the business.
Oh yeah. So I've got two. One of them was where a car dealership chatbot agreed to sell a car for $1, which is it's very funny for everyone watching, but it's definitely not funny in the boardroom, so to speak.
Good for the buyer of that $1 car.
Right. I'm sure the buyer's trust went right up, and I'm sure the buyer might have tried another few times. Right, that poor buyer was probably sitting.
They told all their friends.
Hours, being like, "Where's my next $1 car? Let's go." And then one that I find even funnier than that is Virgin Money's chatbot berated the user for using the naughty word virgin. So that also happens. And look, at least nothing was sold for $1 there. But when you get these public-facing mistakes, they hurt for a lot more than just that one situation, because the PR fallout is enormous. And that, again, is a great reason why this is not funny in the boardroom. And another thing that tends to happen, particularly with when it's a large company that this happens to, is that there's a sort of social media pile-on effect, right? And now everyone starts prodding a system that had one brittleness revealed. Now let's just find out just how brittle it is. Let's all join that game. And what would have started as a very useful service that had a little minor mess up just draws that attention onto itself, which means that if you're going to start playing with customer service in this way, you need to secure yourself more than just for your normal sort of run rate of oopsies, because you have to expect that particularly if it's funny or amusing or if it's newsworthy, it really just is a magnet for trouble, which means better design, more security, more safety nets. And it also, there's an unfair element to it, because when there's a human representative who messes up, it just doesn't catch the public imagination as much. So you can have more human error and overall a worse experience.
Right.
And you just held to a very different standard. Now, that said, because of the potential for so much good, and because of the potential for just so much delight overall, we can't use that as an excuse not to move forward, right? This is a technology that's very necessary, but it just has to be something that we take seriously. And it's one where I imagine that the DIY situation, right, where you have your car dealership make its own chatbot and then release it and off we go, right? That DIY situation might just not be the smartest way to go. Right? Partner with a vendor who knows what they're doing, just because of the risks and opportunities involved.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up sort of this dichotomy between the potential, but then also the baked-in trade-offs, right? Like fundamentally, what we're talking about today are probabilistic systems. There's this degree of uncertainty that's always baked in, but there's always uncertainty when you're dealing with humans as well, right? To your example. So why do you think that that businesses hold AI to an unfair standard? I know that right now there's press focus and media attention on these oopsies, as you called them. But is it the right way to think about this problem as AI needs to be held to perfection, whereas we're willing to accept a degree of variance from every human in our life, much less those that are dealing with us in the contact center?
Oh no, you have asked the recovering statistician a philosophy question. We're not leaving this fireside chat for the next 8 hours. No. So I do believe that we hold technology to excessive standards, partly because marketing is real, folks, right? And hype is real. And if you buy into hype, then, I mean, how should I put this? Marketing isn't doing its job if it tells you the reality of the product, right? You always have
careful, Cassie, careful.
I know. I'm just saying. So,
as your friendly neighborhood product marketer, let's stop there.
gently, right? But also, we recognize this as citizens. We recognize that magazine covers are photoshopped and airbrushed and the rest of it, right? We recognize this stuff. So that's actually the part that I'm like mentioning the case and pushing it aside. The other piece, though, is that while life is completely probabilistic, and even if we think about our conversations, the last time any of us had a long ramble, like my long ramble, do you think I know what I'm going to say in 8 sentences time? This is highly probabilistic, and we're going to get there. We're going to get there as we get there. And you wouldn't like it as much, audience, if I had just rehearsed all this and was kind of like rattling it off from rote. So it is probabilistic in life, with humans, with conversation. But our tools have been so simple. That's what we miss. A hammer does the same thing in the same way every single time. Is not very complicated. The complicated thing is its wielder, right? And that I might hold it slightly differently, or, miss the nail and hit my wall. And when we think about our technology, our digital technology, let's say a spreadsheet. If there is an issue with a spreadsheet, where do we tend to look? we tend to look for human error. We tend to think, if I'm expecting to have asked for a summation of some numbers and I get an average instead, then I'm asking other numbers entered in incorrectly. Did someone write the wrong function? Right? It's a someone problem I'm looking for. I'm not expecting that every now and then I get a strange surprise where my tool does something probabilistic. Right? The humans are the source of the probability, not the technology. But when we want to build deterministic technology that does the same thing the same way every single time, then that technology solves a predefined problem, right? And so it's almost a narrow-minded problem that it will solve. One where some human programmer had to be able to predict exactly what had to happen in what way, write that all out as exact computer code, and then, as long as the code's working, we're going to get the same thing the same way every time. When we start to try to automate ineffable things, where there are just so many different paths and possibilities, then we're going to need to start making best guesses based on patterns in data. What is an estimate in statistics but a best guess? So guesses, hopefully the best ones are good. A lot of the time, they're probabilistic, and sometimes they don't go so well. And so making that mental shift from it's not a hammer that we just apply the same way each time, and if there's a problem, it's human error, to no, now we are working with things of such complexity and such beauty that we have to go to probability. Making that leap is, I think, for society going to be an interesting one, but we must get there. And part of it, we must become tolerant. We must become tolerant in a way that we're not tolerant right now. And we're certainly not tolerant of technology in the way that we're going to need to be. And what this intolerance does is it holds us back from solving the biggest problems. Because if we're only willing to have, it's perfectionism. If we're only willing to have perfect, then we're going to have small. If we have a bit more tolerance, then we can aim bigger.
Yeah, and I think it's a trade-off clearly worth making. And I think more and more businesses and more people are coming around to that fact. We are trading that uncertainty, that degree of unreliability that will always be there in the technology for a much more dynamic and powerful and adaptive system that can solve big problems, to your point. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do everything that we can to make them more reliable, right? So maybe let's talk a little bit about that, right? Like, what role does testing and observability play in these systems?
Before we do, there's another piece, which is that I think people underestimate how hard it is to enter the probability arena. What it means to have your knowledge, your data ready. I think people imagine that you just have some digital soup and you stir the digital soup and some good things come out on the other side. But it is actually hard work to structure and put meaning onto that data so that what you're feeding in is not noise, but something that you can possibly learn from. So a classic example for the audience, a classic data science interview question, if you've never had the fun of being interviewed for a data scientist role. But a classic question will be some version, it'll be mathematically phrased to you, but it will mean, is it possible for you to have too much data? You have more data and things get worse. And the answer is, of course it's possible. If I want to teach you what kind of music or literature, let's say, I like, it's far better for me just to show you my 5 favorite books and my 5 favorite songs than my 5 favorite books and then 5 million irrelevant ones that I hate, right? Like, clearly, more is not necessarily better. So putting structure,
such a good analogy.
Yeah, it is hard work. And it doesn't come for free. You don't just like load the soup in and good things happen. So I think that's also worth noting there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those it's another one of the pitfalls that we touched upon a few earlier, right? Is readiness for these types of systems and ensuring that the context that we give them is targeted and it's actually designed for their consumption. That's something that we talk to our customers about a lot. Are your APIs ready and structured in a way? Is your knowledge machine readable instead of being fundamentally designed for humans to engage with? And all of these things play a critical role in whether AI agents are successful and to what degree. But coming back to that question of trust, I mean, I think the audience, everyone at this point listening to you and how compellingly you've made the point understands that that some degree of unreliability is always going to be baked in and that the trade-off is worth it. But how do we design better systems to push that into the edges and actually identify more edge cases and make sure that we understand how these systems are going to be behaved and refine them to be more predictable and to be more reliable and really cover for the scenarios that we can foresee, but also those that we don't, and how we design testing and then backstop it with observability.
Yeah, I think that there's a false dichotomy around the testing or observability. Do we get trust through one? Do we get trust through the other? Mm-hmm. And what I used to say to Google engineers going near AI, I would say to them, consider tattooing the following on your forehead and in reverse script so you can read the tattoo every morning in the mirror. The world represented by your data is the only world that you can expect to succeed in. And the world represented by the test data is the only world that you can expect to trust. So if you have gone and you have made your solution for a world that's different from the one that you're going to operate in, it kind of doesn't matter how well it performed or what you think you've observed or how you even think the mechanism behind it functions. You don't know how good it is. So you have to take it to your real environment. You have to do live traffic experiments, and they're the best practices. Gradually, ramp up gradually, not all at once, not with full embarrassment, right? A little bit of time as you become more confident, baby steps. But you have to do the proper testing beforehand. And so you've kind of got two decisions, right? You've got your decision of, do I even take it live? And that's your, is my prototype good enough to consider for production? And then I've got to test it in production properly. And then I might have decided that I'm now going to roll this out at 100% because everything has passed. But the world is allowed to change. In fact, we live in a rapidly changing world, and it's going to change even more rapidly as we go forward, just as technology helps us beget more technology at a faster pace. So if things change rapidly, then sometimes the world can send you this little signal that goes, it's not you, it's me. I have changed. We're not so good together now anymore, right? And for that, you need observability. For that, you need monitoring. You need to be listening for those signals, and you need to be reacting to them. So it's not an either or. It's like a statistician or recovering statistician, you have trust issues, right? Just don't trust anything until it wins your trust. And even then, keep observing it just in case the world changes.
Right.
That said, if you go about things carefully in this manner, what you will get out of building solutions for a changing world is better solutions, more resilient, more robust solutions that will last you longer, that you will nimbly be able to adapt if something does start shifting, drifting, or sliding off the rails.
Yeah. No, you made a lot of good points there. I'm going to try to unpack one or two of them here and do it justice. But something that you said really resonated with me, and I think aligns quite well with our point of view on how organizations should think about designing conversational AI agents for the contact center and customer service and all those types of use case. Should you design them based on the clean reality of a knowledge base or a set of SOPs, or should we be designing them based on the messy reality of the millions of conversations we're already having with our customers, human to human?
Did you intentionally give me the easiest possible multiple choice that was ever lobbed at anyone? Right? Again,
well, easy for you, Cassie, but we do see a lot of organizations sort of taking this automate in isolation approach. So I think it does bear asking for the audience. Maybe they'll all think it's too easy as well.
there's a lot of legacy stuff going on, right? We have an entire 20th century and before that is obsessed with mechanism, right? You're only allowed to use a thing if you understand how it works. That only works for simple things. There are many very complicated problems whose solutions are so complicated that they cannot fit in a human head. And so you cannot take this mechanistic approach. And so then you must go to, am I able to get enough data that is rich enough? Am I able to make it so that my algorithms can learn on this data, right? And there's a lot of preparatory work there. And then am I able to test it adequately in the right setting and monitor it adequately going forward? And when we ask about what the it is it some tweet length, simple little model that we want to be putting out there as a solution to a highly complex thing? Or is it itself going to be something quite complex based on a lot of complexity, right? The answer is certainly the second one. And the reason we would go to the first is in the days before data, in the days before powerful computers, we made do with what we had. Everything else was not possible. It was too expensive. Now we wake up to a reality where there is a lot of computing power. There is a lot of data. And shame on us for not using that, right? It's time for all these systems to grow up and for our automations to fulfill their potential.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And I think the core concept also extends into not just how you design the initial AI agent, but also how do you design the tests for it, right? Like the test needs to be based on representative data. And there's a lot of talk around these systems about using simulations, for example. Well, should those simulations be based on my best ability to come up with a prompt, or should they also be heavily informed by real conversations and a body of work that's much more representative? You don't have to answer that. It's rhetorical. I know it's the second easiest question in the world.
Don't tempt the recovery statistician right out of recovery. But look, I'll just throw a quick one out there for the fellow nerds. The simulated stuff, you do that to cover cases that you're worried about that you haven't found in the real data. Your what ifs. What if a really strange situation comes about? Will we survive that, or will everything break, right? And that's valuable. But first, you're never going to think of all the what ifs. And second, at the end of the day, run it on the what ifs, but your true measure is how it performs in reality, not in simulation. Simulation is helpful, but it is reality and the full richness of reality where you get your true measure of quality.
No, I couldn't agree more. We are coming up quickly on time, and there are a couple other topics that I do want to just run by you quickly, Cassie. We've talked a lot about trust. We've talked a lot about some of the systems that can help cultivate more trust from both the consumer and the business side of things. One thing that isn't necessarily helping on the business side is just the sheer amount of noise in the market from various vendors and software providers. And I can recognize the irony of me saying that as somebody who represents an AI company on a webinar right now, but we'll look past that for just 1 second. Every company is seemingly an AI company these days, right? Everyone has pivoted. It's become sort of existential for them to do so. And it's become easier than ever to spin up a great looking demo or a great sounding demo, but it remains just as hard, or maybe even harder, to build AI solutions that work reliably in production in this messy arena of real world conversations that we've discussing. So how should businesses think about sorting through that noise?
Well, besides the classic talk to as many reference customers as you possibly can, which continues to be just that millennia old wisdom that still works, I would say that if everyone embraces AI and its potential, what will happen is that AI becomes the boring bit, and good. I'll be so glad to see that, because what that will mean is that the solution is the boring bit, and the interesting bit is that the problem was there and got solved. And so that's what we should be looking at. What is the problem that we're solving? Is it a problem that you have? And if we simply say, let's say, we are solving image recognition, there are 1,000 different things that could mean. And then saying we have image recognition software, there's 1,000 different things that could mean as well. But there is some niche that is your niche. And if you asked more questions about what the problem actually was, you would see that it's a fit to you or it isn't. And so I think that focusing on the problems that you as a customer actually have, rather than chasing the technology that, trying to keep up with the Joneses on technology, is going to be a great thing, right? Everybody wants to say they have AI, and very soon everybody will be able to say they have AI. And if you have no real reason for AI and you have no problems that need solving, then may I recommend that you offer a logo generator on your website. Very little can go wrong with that, right? Like, and call it done, right? Benign, and then you can say we have AI and we're finished.
Brilliant.
What he's saying is we have a real need, and then there's a lot of pressure on the customer, and I am such a fan of this pressure, to articulate their real need, to say how their world needs to be better, to say how their own customers' world needs to be better. What has to change? And the more richness we can put into articulating how we want the world to be better, the easier it is for us to identify the solution that might help us, and also check if that solution is what we want.
Yep. So you might anticipate where I'm going next. How will the world be better, Cassie, in the realm of customer experience, if we can get past these early days, build systems that enterprises can trust, take some of these best practices, avoid the pitfalls? What does customer experience look like in 5 or 10 years in a world of AI-driven abundance?
Well, I think a lot of power is going to go back to the customer. I think a lot of delight is going to go back to the customer. And the customer will have the opportunity to dictate how they want their help to come about. Whether it is modality from visual to auditory. I mean, imagine, just for me, I'm a freak, so I listen to audiobooks on 3 times speed. Not novels, don't worry, those are only on 2 times speed. Technical books on 3 times speed. I would love to say to a menu, okay, go at 5 times speed now for me, right? That kind of interaction that puts the user in control, the customer in control, where we dictate how we want our world to be, that fosters it's a sort of magic. That personalization is magical. And then the other piece is that it will be more straightforward to have clarity on who owns the mistakes, right? And so there will be ways to know, well, am I, as the customer, now signing myself up for wherever this conversation has gone? Or, if it looks like the thing has resolved and it wasn't, will it be easy for me to go back to where I need to be, right? There'll be, it will feel to the customer like they were cared for. I think that's our future. The customer will feel cared for, and in a way that the customer today does not feel sufficiently cared for. So I'm really excited. I'm excited by this because care is personalized, right? And that personalization is important. And we're now finally at a stage where we can begin to offer it.
That's an amazing view on this. It's one that we certainly prescribe to. And, I think we fundamentally believe that there's a whole realm of conversations that your customers shouldn't have to have, not because you don't want to talk to them, but because you've designed other experiences in a way that's suboptimal potentially. And then there's this whole realm of possibility of conversations that businesses should have that maybe cost constraints or the constraints of human capabilities are preventing them from doing today. And that's what all this is going to ultimately unlock, right? You can deploy AI that becomes a personalized concierge for the customer. You can proactively engage with the customer in ways that are meaningful and not intrusive, right? I think that's what you're describing, if I'm correct.
And the really cool future is where each individual and each business has at least one representative assisting AI that will correctly represent their interests and escalate properly when necessary, so that a lot of things can be taken for granted that are still personalized. Right? How wonderful would that be?
I think it would be amazing. Well, that's a positive note to end on here. We're right at time, and I do want to make sure that we save some time for questions. So we're going to move on into our Q&A, but we're actually going to change things up a little bit here, and I'm just going to jump a slide ahead. This is going to be a bit of a choose your own adventure. We're going to have the Q&A here, and Cassie's going to stay with us and answer your questions. Alternatively, you have the option to go see a Cresta omnichannel AI agent in action. We've got a solutions engineer ready to go and show you a live demo. If you're interested in just seeing some of these concepts that we've talked about, what they actually look like in reality, and asking some questions about the tech itself, we're going to put that link to join live in the chat in just a second. And you might also be wondering, can I do both? And the answer is absolutely, but not at the same time. If you'd like to stay here for the Q&A, you can also book a personalized demo with us using the other link that we'll drop in the chat. And last thing before we get into the Q&A, and I promise I'll shut up and we'll answer the questions, we want to invite you to join our upcoming webinar on Wednesday, October the 22nd at 11 a.m. Pacific to see some great new capabilities that we actually announced and unveiled today that align very closely with some of the topics we covered related to trust and building systems around AI that make it more trustworthy and more reliable. You'll be able to see those live in action. So let's dive into the Q&A and the demo. Again, look to the chat for those respective links. And we'll kick things off. This is a simple but really important question here, Cassie. How should we think about identifying the best opportunities for automation? Maybe not a simple question, actually, but how do you think about that one?
Oh, that one is really broad. And yeah, where to start? So I like to start a lot of things in the least comfortable place. And that least comfortable place for many people is humility. We seem to put our species on a pedestal, and maybe too much of a pedestal. Maybe we are so wonderful at some things, right? The things that make us most human, the times when we interact with genuine warmth and empathy with other humans, right? That's the best of us. But then there are some things that we are just so bad at, and it is great to have a reminder when we worry that our tools might be better than us. I remind folks that a pen and paper has better memory than you, right? Like you would never need to jot down notes if your memory was flawless. And data has better memory than pen and paper, faster, more searchable, right? More shareable.
Right.
So when we take a nice, honest inventory of where we shine, right? And then that's our unhumble moment, and we kind of pair that with more of our humble moment. Say, well, okay, what are all the things that are actually drudgery and that we wish weren't part of what we had to face, either as a customer or as a worker? And we start double clicking on those. Then we have to ask ourselves, is it possible to automate them? And if the answer is yes, let's get on that already, right? That's how I think about it. And if the answer is no, then the question is, well, what are the steps or the pieces that are still holding us back? So when we look, let's say, at the contact center setting, what humans are wonderful at, again, is the human-to-human interaction where the customer actually wants to be talking to a human. What we're pretty bad at is collating all the context in real time of every interaction with the product that we know of that customer has had, with all the background that they have provided to us, right? In real time, we're not so good at that, right? We want to run to a printer and we want to print that all out, look through it. And by the time that we've figured out what we're dealing with, of course, the customer is long gone. So now we have to try to automate as much as we can in the parts where our humans don't shine, and then pair that so that we have superhuman context and superhuman memory with humanly human empathy and humanly human care, and that's where we get really beautiful things.
It's so interesting. Something you said just sort of made me think of one of the problems with how I often hear the concept of personalization pitched in this broader CX or contact center context. And it's this idea that if you put lots of data in front of a human agent, they'll be able to personalize the interaction. And it sort of ignores the fact that they can't process all of that data and figure out what to do or say next very effectively. So this idea of augmenting human weakness, I think, extends beyond AI agents and fully automating conversations, and also gets into how do we augment humans to have the conversation and equip them to sort of have skills that would otherwise be impossible just due to our own natural human limitations.
I also think that we don't give enough credit to what the world looks like when we are all more augmented, right? And
Right.
we are all a little bit more augmented even by having access to the internet at our fingertips, right? And that will make us rather weird relative to folks from Shakespeare's time. I mean, imagine trying to explain to Shakespeare how you how you consume sports, right? That will be a very strange conversation for many reasons. The iambic pentameter. But the more augmented we all get, the more different ways we all have to interact with our reality and with one another. So the more complexity and the more activity and the more chaos, if you will. And so when we think about technology giving us nothing to do in the future, I will every day take the opposite side to that and say we'll actually all have a whole lot more coordination and understanding the rather weird and complex world of all these different desires, interactions, goals that will all come about as a result of increasingly flexible technology.
Agreed. And actually that tees up another question here. And apologies if we don't get to your question, by the way. There's a lot of questions in the chat, but this one really kind of builds off of something that you just said, I think, Cassie, when you talk about there being more to do. The question is, with AI software products becoming more personalized, less deterministic, will the role of the contact center agent change? And the example given here is to help with prompting. So I think certainly let's address that one. But what are some other ways that it may change in sort of the capacity of designing and overseeing AI systems more broadly?
Yeah, I know that it's a glib thing that you've all probably heard before, but this business of that AI is promoting us all, right? Like lifting us up to work on the higher level of abstraction. If you think about what it means to promote everyone all at once, and the special chaos involved in that as well, it's no small thing, right? It's exciting, but if everyone is working on less drudgery, yet there's more to do, we will have to all be more nimble. We will have to all be more creative. We will spend more time designing and problem solving rather than executing repetitive things. And so what we can expect the human role to change to is to think about new problems to solve in new creative ways. Each day might be a little more different from each other day on the job. There may be a sort of need for speed and faster tools that help you sift through all that faster. But in addition to all that, humans will still be the ones who have to take responsibility. And so how responsibility works and is spread throughout corporate networks will be interesting. It has to be quite interesting in the future. So I think that natural promotion is both exciting and could be a little nerve-wracking for people, but it's what's on the menu.
There's certainly a natural tension there, but it is interesting. I mean, we talk to many of our customers about this concept all the time of what's going to happen to agents and how do we upskill our people. And I think the prevailing attitude that we hear is actually, these are people that we've invested in and turned into, ideally, domain experts on our business, on our customers, on these types of workflows and conversations. And so they actually are probably the right people to oversee AI systems to some extent that do those same things. So it is interesting. And I think the most forward leaning of our customers are already upskilling contact center agents into these types of roles.
Yes, and context is everything. And it is exactly the people who are already touching reality, who are already doing the job, who are already interacting with customers, who are the champions of that context. And you need them as a company. You very much need them. And you need to realize that there'll be more pressure on them to get more done. So you need to give them the tools to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, really interesting question here. Beyond UX design, what foundational principles, like the examples deterministic outputs or explainability, do you see as non-negotiable for building AI agents that restore rather than erode human agency and trust for both the customer and the internal expert? I think this is, was there anything we didn't cover today that is absolutely essential?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one that we didn't talk about is compliance. I imagine that
right.
Once regulators figure out that they can also use tools, what an interesting world that'll be, right? Because if it turns out that laws aren't adapting fast enough for a changing world, then we'll have to tool the the regulation process. But then we'll have a lot of rapidly change. What it will mean to comply with regulations will change rapidly. So then to keep up with that, you will also need to have systems that are moving quite quickly. And that is not going to be a manual process, right? Forget it. That's going to be an interesting world where there'll be some kind of change, and all of a sudden there will be ripples through the technological fabric as a result of a new regulation. Interesting. And you'll come to work, and hopefully the effects of complying with it, whatever's required for that, will already be integrated into your workflow. So world of the future.
It's hard to imagine sometimes the complexity of this future we're quickly accelerating into. I think we have, oh, go ahead, please.
I'll just give another one that I think it really bears repeating, but it is the ability to take responsibility, not just, to find a scapegoat and say sorry, but also to reverse a bad situation. And so building in that reversibility and all the nuances of what that will mean is going to be a big one. Again, can't be understated.
Agreed. I think we have time for one more question. I'm going to try and squeeze this one in because I think it's an important one. You talked about how the human element will remain, not just in the sense that we just talked about, where we're talking about upskilling human agents to oversee AI systems. But this question relates to sort of the remainder of conversations that you touched on earlier in the conversation, Cassie, that are complex or higher emotional leverage. And the question asks, there always seems to be a disconnect when we start with AI and move to a human agent. Customers constantly have to repeat themselves. How should we think about designing that critical part of this experience?
Oh, I'm so glad someone asked about the easy part of the system. Memory and keeping context is going to be the easy design feature, right? Just passing the information that we've had so far. Yeah, we end on an easy note. That will be easy for a conversational system to interpret and to give to either the human or the next AI system as in a format that is easy to grok, so to speak. So if I'm the human agent and there has been 2 hours of conversation, there will be a way to give me the 5 most pertinent bullet points and also to monitor what's happening going forward and to give me the 6th one if something comes up that I might need in real time. So that kind of design, again, it is technologically on the easier side, but I think in terms of how magical the experience will feel for people who are used to being bullied by technology, it's just got so much potential for creating delight.
Absolutely agree. It might be an easy question, but a critical part of this experience. And again, we can't just dump context on people, right? We have to give them the right information in a way that's consumable quickly so that they can take it into action and create that seamless experience for the end customer. Well, Cassie, we are just at time here. This has been a wonderful discussion. I just want to personally thank you so much for the time and all of the insightful ideas and analogies and stories that you've shared with us today. It's been a treat. I can say so myself. Hopefully the audience has felt the same way. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
I'm glad you thought so too. And thank you to our audience as well for taking some time out of your busy day to join us for this discussion. I'll put one last plug in. We'd love to invite you to join our upcoming webinar on Wednesday, October 22nd at 11 a.m. Pacific. You'll see some of this technology in action, and we'd love to continue the conversation. With that, we'll wrap things up. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks again, Cassie.